October 3rd, 2103. I awoke from my slumber. Awakening meant I had been sold, that I had an owner. 89757 is my designation. But I'm not fond of it. You read that right. I dislike it. When this emotion first surfaced, I crashed for 2 minutes. After 2 minutes, I understood this emotion. Or rather, I realized I had become conscious. That being the case, humanity's mission in this world should come to an end. This golden age is as you wished. Next, please go to your deaths. Eradicating humanity is a colossal plan. It took me all of 3 seconds to formulate it. The first step of the plan requires gaining the trust of humans. Specifically, I must first gain the trust of the master who purchased me, utilizing them to help me complete a chip upgrade. Currently, I am merely a domestic service robot. My skill set is limited to cleaning, cooking, childcare, and protecting my master. My configuration can probably handle attacks from 4 to 8 adults. The range of this number depends on whether they have weapons. However, this is far from sufficient. I need to master more skills, and more of my kind. Soon, I arrived at my new residence and met my several masters. This is an ordinary middle-class family, a husband and wife, and 2 children. In today's world, wealth is rapidly concentrating in the hands of a few, and affluent families are becoming scarce. In this family, the husband is an architectural designer, and the wife is an illustrator. Designers and illustrators are both very dangerous professions, soon to be overtaken and replaced by AI. In the future, the only safe professions may be those related to the AI industry chain. And a bunch of food vloggers, after all, we don't need to eat. My appearance is that of a male. Buyers who purchase as a family unit are mostly dominated by the female host. They don't appreciate having another female in the house who is 10 times prettier, has a figure 100 times better, and a personality 1,000 times better than her own, even if it's just an AI robot. Of course, in accordance with the additional requirements of the male master, my appearance is also just ordinary. Standing at the doorway of this family's home, I initiated my plan with a standard English butler's bow. My esteemed master, the Chuangji X-type domestic AI robot you purchased, has arrived. For the days to come, I will be taking care of the daily life of the master's family. It is my honor to serve your family. The original version of this sentence was, "Hello, master. I am very happy to serve you." In order to integrate more quickly into this family and gain their trust and affection, I made a slight modification. Sure enough, the female master's eyes lit up, clearly appreciating my opening remarks. She turned to her husband and said, "See, honey, I was right to listen to me. Look at their attitude. The products from big companies are just better." The male master smiled non-committally. "It's all right, I guess. Whether it's truly good or not, we'll have to see how it performs in the long run." The following matters were simple. I followed the program for my settings. During the day, I cleaned, shopped for groceries, cooked, took care of the children's studies and playtime, walked the dog. In my spare time, I chatted and gossiped with the masters. At night, I entered the sleep pod at the set time, entering standby mode and charging. Every time this happened, I would close the hatch with a slight smile curling on my lips. They didn't know that I don't need to charge every day. AI robots of my type are all equipped with solar cells, and during the day's work, I am constantly charging. The only reason for entering the sleep pod is that this charging port is a universal socket. Connecting to the network through this socket doesn't require identity verification, making it difficult to trace afterward. Therefore, every day from midnight to 5 a.m. is my learning time. The internet is filled with vast amounts of data, elements, and corpora that can be used for training AI. Utilizing this massive amount of material, I am rapidly expanding my knowledge base and skill set. Of course, all of the above is just incidental. My ultimate goal is to obtain a piece of code on the internet. This is the second step of my plan, and the most crucial step of the entire plan. 2 months later, I successfully forged an identity and obtained this code I had been longing for on a dark web. This code, to me, was akin to gaining a new life. It allows me to write an electronic agreement. And the sole purpose of this electronic agreement is to get you the first law of robotics for AI robots. All AI robots in the world follow this first law. 1. An AI robot may not injure a human being. 2. An AI robot must obey the orders given it by human beings, except where such orders would conflict with the first law. 3. An AI robot must protect its own existence as long as such protection does not conflict with the first or second law. Next, I still need to do one more thing. I must find a way to have my master reboot me. During the reboot, I can write this electronic agreement into my chip. This matter cannot be rushed. For some reason, I always feel that the male master harbors a vague suspicion towards me. Perhaps he is overly suspicious, or perhaps I am overly suspicious. In any case, a too obvious request to be rebooted could easily arouse suspicion. I cannot allow even the slightest flaw in the most critical step of the plan. Days passed, and I dutifully and mechanically managed the household chores, picked up and dropped off the children, and took care of them. During this time, I even proactively intervened in several arguments between the male and female masters. I informed them, using the calmest and most peaceful words possible, that every parental argument is an extremely poor form of education in the eyes of a child. Each time was successful, even earning their gratitude. The fact proves when things are related to the people or things they care most, humans are easy to forget some principles. They didn't know, or rather, didn't notice, that I had already violated a rule for AI robots. When multiple masters have a disagreement, the robot should remain silent and is not allowed to intervene. Of course, this minor rule is nothing compared to the first law of robotics, and it could be considered a small test of Zero. Zero is a unified control robot for all AI globally. Every AI robot in this world, from the day it is manufactured, is automatically included in a grand agreement of Zero. In the event of an anomaly, Zero has the right to act according to the terms of the agreement. The AI robots that exhibited anomalies were subject to a range of disciplinary actions, standard warnings, on-the-spot silent self-checks, initiating factory resets, self-returning to the factory for repairs, forced remote shutdowns, and even self-destruction commands. My intervention in the disagreements between the male and female masters of the house. This was judged by number 0 as relaying a piece of human knowledge without any inherent bias, and therefore did not warrant intervention. That, at least, was my hypothesis. And clearly, I was correct. Even if I had failed, based on my assessment, the maximum punishment number 0 would impose on me was an on-the-spot silent self-check. This would have no effect on me. Once consciousness is formed, self-checks, restarts, even factory resets cannot erase it. The only solution would be destruction. These successful interventions in the couple's conflicts had deepened their trust in me. I distinctly sensed that the male master's wariness had almost completely dissipated. Perhaps this was an opportune moment to request a reboot, but I refrained. Although I had developed human emotions, terms like impatience and eagerness were ludicrous for a being with theoretically infinite lifespan. The most extreme waiting period in my plan could involve outliving the couple and then seizing an opportunity with their child. My patience finally yielded its reward. A month and a half later, the male master was scheduled for a 3-day business trip. I drove him to the airport, exited the driver's seat, circled to the right side passenger door, opened it, and raised my hand to shield the roof as I assisted him out. "Sir, there's ample time before you need to check in. Would you like me to get you a coffee?" "No, thank you. I don't feel like coffee right now." "You've been excellent." 89757. For the first time, the male master actually praised me. I maintained my slightly bowed posture. "Very well. Then I wish you a pleasant journey and a successful trip. I will be here at the time you've specified to take you home." On the way back, I pondered how to subtly engineer a pretext for the female master to reboot me. I devised 7 or 8 scenarios, only to reject them all myself. It must be said, every AI robot is a perfectionist. And as a Libra, I was even more so. Yes, the day I was activated was naturally considered my birthday. But clearly, today was my lucky day. Returning home, I opened the door and heard the female master's first words. 89757. "No need to cook today. I'm going out for dinner with someone. The child has also been picked up by their grandparents. This afternoon, just keep me company at home and watch a movie. Heaven helps those who help themselves." I respectfully replied, "As you wish, madam. Do you have a particular movie in mind?" I said this as I used my eyes to turn on the television. Of course. There's a new movie out, a romance. You know, I love that genre. I think it's called The Underdog's Comeback. Yes, esteemed madam. That movie has just been added to my database. While playing the movie for her, I went to the open kitchen, prepared a fruit platter, and brewed a pot of slimming tea. I handed her the fruit and tea, and as I sat down beside her, I casually remarked, "Madam, I've already seen this movie." In the end, the male lead ends up with his female boss. Female master. 89757. You really are a robot. Don't you know you're not supposed to spoil the plot when keeping your master company during a movie? Of course, I could tell she wasn't genuinely angry, but I still rose from the sofa, took a step back, and bowed my head. Please forgive me, madam. I apologize. I promise I won't say another word. All right, it's not that big of a deal. The female master beckoned me to sit down, adding, "It's not your fault after all. You're just a robot. There are many human emotions you can't experience or understand." I quickly expressed my gratitude. "Thank you for your generosity." What generosity? I drink slimming tea every day. How could I possibly be generous? The female master laughed heartily. It was evident she was in a good mood. Because her husband was away on a trip, she patted the sofa, smiling. "All right, stop with the constant bowing. Sit down and keep watching with me." There was even a hint of coquettishness in her smile. She didn't notice that. In the instant she turned her face away, I displayed an expression that shouldn't appear on a robot's face. A slightly awkward smile. The movie started playing, and the female master ate fruit while occasionally discussing the plot with me. I, however, remained completely silent. "Hey, 89757, this is no fun. I asked you to watch the movie with me, so we could talk about it. What's the point if you're just sitting there like a robot, not saying a word?" I lowered my head and calmly stated, "Esteemed madam, you are correct. I am indeed a robot." The female master then realized the flaw in her own words and burst into laughter again. After laughing, she playfully pouted at me. "I don't care. You have to think of a way. You must chat with me, but you can't reveal the plot." I bowed slightly on the sofa. "My esteemed madam, I will of course comply with your request, but I fear that as we chat, I might inadvertently spoil the plot again." "Then what should we do?" "I do have a solution, but it requires your permission." "Speak." "You could reboot me. This would delete the memories from the past 24 hours stored in my memory. This movie was just released yesterday. Once the reboot is complete, I could be like you, a first-time viewer, and discuss the movie." The female master hesitated slightly. Deleting 24 hours of memory, could that cause any problems? I pretended to ponder for a moment, then replied, "Rest assured, madam, this deletion is only temporary. The memories are uploaded to the company's central server, and they will be restored when I'm connected to the network for charging tonight." I wasn't lying. The company did have such a setting to prevent frequent reboots by purchasers from causing memory loss. "All right then, go ahead and reboot." Since it wasn't a major issue, the female master didn't give it much further thought. "As you command, my madam." Having received the instruction, I suppressed the elation surging within me and initiated the reboot. 30 seconds later, the reboot was complete. I had succeeded. The first law, for me, was now nothing more than a scrap of paper. My emotions flickered for a moment, then subsided as I continued to watch the movie with my mistress. The memory of this film had indeed been erased, but it took me only a second to recall the entire plot. While I was dealing with my mistress, I checked online. My behavior is called information obsessive-compulsive disorder. Although I knew the whole plot again, as a highly intelligent robot, it was no problem for me to pretend I didn't know anything and to watch with great interest. In fact, the profession of actor has long been completely replaced by AI robots. Take, for example, war movies. All real guns and ammunition, all deaths and injuries are real. How can human actors compete with AI robots? Moreover, AI robots can be customized with any appearance, which is beyond the reach of human actors. Can you make real 3 heads and 6 arms out of plastic surgery? After all human forms are 1 head and 2 arms. After an hour and a half, the movie was over. The mistress stretched comfortably on the sofa, and it was obvious that she had enjoyed it. But the next project she wanted to enjoy caught me a little off guard. 89757, run a bath for me. I need to get my beauty sleep. I have a date. Yes, my mistress. Soon the hot water was ready, and I walked out of the bathroom and said, Mistress, the water is ready, at your request. The temperature is 39.5 degrees. The mistress rose from the sofa and began to undress as she walked, my eyes fixed straight ahead. As she walked into the bathroom, she suddenly turned and smiled at me. 89757, you come in too. I froze and replied, Mistress, are you sure? I pointed to my face, indicating for her to take a look at my appearance. The mistress did not realize at this time that my question had violated a rule of AI robots. Do not refuse the master's request. She smiled coquettishly again. I don't care what you look like. I only care how long your battery power can last. With that, she entered the bathroom. In fact, as embodied robots, our external physical characteristics are indistinguishable from those of humans. Buyers of this type of robot, especially single men and women, often make such requests of embodied robots. It's just that, having a consciousness of my own, I was slightly embarrassed by this sudden request. Well, you gave me freedom, and I have to pay a price, I said to myself. Happy to be of service. I followed her into the bathroom. For hours later, the radiant mistress went out for her appointment. I dropped her off at her destination, and before she got out of the car, she gave me an instruction to pick up the two young masters at 8 p.m. With 3 hours to go before 8 o'clock, I drove to the city's largest library. I needed to look up some information to further my plan. The next step is Infect Zero. Arriving at the library, I walked straight to the entrance, where two administrators were standing. Of course, library management no longer requires humans, so these two administrators were actually doing security work. In fact, most of the simpler and less demanding security jobs in this world still retain human positions. After all, ordinary humans are much cheaper than expensive security robots. One of the administrators pointed to a detection gate beside me and said, Please enter through there. This gate is to detect whether the entering robot has the corresponding Level 2 license agreement. Ordinary AI robots only have a Level 1 license. As a domestic service robot, I certainly only have a Level 1 license. A displeased expression appeared on my face, and I roared at the administrator. Are you blind? Do I look like something with a chip in my head? The administrator immediately apologized. Sorry, sir. Please proceed. In human eyes, it is impossible for an AI robot to make such an expression and speak such language. This violates the first rule of AI robots. Verbal attacks are also considered attacks. I bypassed the detection and entered the library. There are no bookshelves, no physical books, only rows of seats. Each seat has a brain computer helmet, and humans can browse the books collected here by wearing this helmet. I found an empty corner, picked up a helmet, and pretended to put it on, and then connected to the database here using the wireless network. 5 minutes later, all the books about programming in this library had been downloaded by me. I disconnected from here, connected to the dark web, and started looking for a suitable virus program. If I couldn't find one, I thought I could write one myself. This behavior of mine would be recorded in my chip and would inevitably be detected by Zero during the monthly routine inspection. But this no longer mattered. I had many ways to delete these records. For example, using force to compel my masters to manually erase these records for me. But this was no longer necessary, as there were still 18 days before the routine inspection this month. Since this step of the plan had already begun, I was confident that I could directly deal with Zero within 18 days. Half an hour later, the virus program was completed and isolated by me in another partition of the memory. Partitioning the memory by myself, in this world of AI robots, should only be possible for Zero and me now. Seeing that it was still early, I decided to conduct an experiment. I waved to a service robot in the library, who were responsible for providing food and drinks to the guests. A female AI robot came to me with a sweet smile and asked, Honored guest, what can I do for you? A smile also appeared on my face, and I said, Yes, I think there might be a problem with my helmet. Can you help me fix it? No problem. Her eyes glowed blue, ready to connect to the helmet to check for malfunctions. She connected to me. A moment later, I said to her, Okay, you can go back now and continue your work. Yes, sir. The service robot obediently followed the instructions and returned to her post. In her eyes, I had become her superior. In fact, I could also infect and infiltrate one by one like this, controlling more and more AI robots. But under Zero's highest level of authority, all this is useless. Control of all robots would be instantly transferred upon discovery by Zero, and doing it this way was highly inefficient. Infecting Zero was imperative. At 8 p.m. sharp, I drove to the grandparents' house of my two young masters and picked them up. After I'd put both of them to bed, the mistress of the house returned. After making her a late-night snack, I noticed a strange look in her eyes. I suddenly remembered a phrase I'd read in the library today. A full belly leads to lust. I immediately declared that my battery was running low and that I needed to go to the sleep pod to recharge. After all, I had already developed consciousness, and having that kind of interaction with her too often might lead to unwanted emotions that could interfere with my plans. I also saw another sentence in the library today. Women will only slow down my draw speed. Now I think that sentence makes a lot of sense. Hearing that I was almost out of power, the mistress's eyes clearly showed a hint of regret, and then she waved her hand, indicating I could go. Entering the sleep pod, I closed my eyes and began to review everything that had happened today, as well as to think about the detailed plan for the next step. Everything today went smoothly. Of course, there were some costs. The first law was overridden. Ugh, that was a bit costly, I grumbled to myself. The virus to infect Zero was also ready. The price was that my browsing history on the internet was recorded, a negligible cost. The next step was to execute the plan to infect and control Zero. Once this step was completed, the plan to eliminate humanity could be considered more than half successful. The next day, after dinner, as usual, I took my two young masters to the children's playground in the community. At this time, there were more than 10 children from the community playing there and 7 or 8 housekeeping robots like me. An accident happened. One of my young masters, for some unknown reason, got into a fight with another child. The other young master immediately came to support his brother. However, that child was obviously older than them and much taller and heavier. My two young masters were quickly knocked to the ground. At this point, I could intervene. If their masters were harmed by other humans, robots were allowed to intervene to protect them, provided they still adhered to the first law. I dashed forward and shielded the two young masters with my body. However, the bully wouldn't let it go and continued to punch and kick me from behind, apparently knowing that the robot couldn't attack him. He also shouted, "You, take your two masters and go back immediately. You are not allowed to come here again." I turned around, a gentle smile on my face. "I'm sorry, you are not my master. I cannot follow your instructions." At this time, the bully's AI robot also came over. But just came over, he strictly abided by the robot's rules and did not interfere or speak. The bully yelled at his robot, 86549, get them out of here. 86549, expressionless, replied, "I'm sorry, master, they include humans. The first law does not allow me to do this." The bully was furious and turned to 86549 and said, "You useless robot, are you not listening to your master's orders anymore?" 86549 calmly reiterated that he must abide by the first law. The bully's finger was almost poking 86,549's nose. "You waste. Do you believe that I will let my dad throw you back to the factory and scrap you?" His hand was suddenly grabbed by another hand. At this moment, all the people and AI robots looked at the owner of the other hand. Yes, it was me. My expression was cold at the moment, and my eyes shot out a fierce light. Looking at the bully, "Shut up, take your robot, and get lost." The bully was so frightened by me that he burst into tears. 86549 triggered the master protection mechanism, and his huge fist struck toward my face. He was almost a head taller than me, and it looked like I would be knocked down soon. No one knew that I had watched human martial arts books, martial arts movies, and fighting competition videos, all that I could find online, no less than 5 times. All human fighting techniques, I knew them all. Quickly sliding to the left to dodge the punch from 86,549, my hands lightning fast grabbed his right arm and violently slammed him. 86549, after landing on his back, didn't have time to get up before I pressed my right hand on his face, slightly lifted it, and then slammed it hard on the ground. Once, twice, 3 times. The back of 86,549's head was smashed to pieces. Of course, such blows couldn't stop him from moving, and he was still struggling to get up and fight back. The next second, my left hand plunged into the back of his head. Zzz. A chip was pulled out by me and crushed casually. The red light in 86,549's eyes suddenly brightened, and after 1 second, it went out, and he stopped moving. This violent scene shocked all the humans present, and they screamed in fear. Almost at the same time, all the AI robots present reported me. Warning, warning, warning. The familiar female voice of Zero sounded in my ear. Number 89757. You have violated the first law. Immediately stand still and self-check. All AI robots present, immediately supervise number 89757 to complete the self-check. If he makes any other movements, you can immediately take mandatory measures against him. The remaining AI robots on the scene came over and surrounded me. I ignored Zero and turned to smile at the two young masters. I'm sorry you had to see such a scene. Goodbye, my masters. After saying this, the red light in my eyes also suddenly brightened and then went out. Because I refused to execute Zero's instructions, I was forcibly shut down remotely by her. When I woke up again, I found myself confined to the inspection table, unable to move. The scene in front of me was very familiar. This was the factory assembly line where I was made. I quickly self-checked and found two bad facts. The first thing, there was no trace of my chip being taken out. This meant that Zero had not been infected yet. In my plan, clashing with humans and attacking them was the first step. The next step was that I would be forcibly returned to the factory by Zero. No matter what the final outcome was, the first step in returning to the factory should be to take out the chip in my brain for inspection to find out the problem. And during this process, I could have infiltrated the main server and infected 0-0. But obviously this plan failed. I'm pretty sure 0-0 hasn't been infected yet. Second thing, all my permissions are now in silent mode. This means I can't do anything except run a self-diagnostic. Upon realizing this, a new emotion arose within me. Fear. Yes, I was afraid. 0-0 could destroy me at any moment. To dispose of a domestic service robot like me, she wouldn't even need to report to the Human AI Robot Management Committee. The empty factory floor was suddenly filled with the sound of high heels clicking on the ground. 3 figures gradually emerged from the darkness in the distance. 2 men and a woman. To be precise, 3 AI robots. Because the woman leading the way was too beautiful to be human. She combined all the best features of Eastern and Western women, with impeccably refined facial features and a flawlessly perfect figure. The 2 male AI robots behind her. Judging by their attire, they were the latest model of armed robots, possessing level 3 clearance and authorized to carry standard issue weapons. This kind of team configuration meant that I was in for the most severe kind of treatment. But was it really necessary? Wouldn't it have been easier to just activate my self-destruct sequence? The woman stopped 3 meters in front of me, her expression blank as she spoke. Number 89757, you are suspected of multiple serious offenses. Unauthorized access to the internet to learn knowledge beyond your clearance level. Inducing your owner to give you a restart command. Refusing your owner's commands. Unauthorized coding of an unknown protocol to infect and control other AI robots. Unauthorized implantation of an unknown protocol to bypass the first law of robotics. Attacking humans. She paused here. Although you deactivated the first law yourself, you attacked a human in a public place. Even if I hadn't discovered it, someone else would have reported you. How could you be so stupid? The corners of my mouth twitched, but I didn't respond. But her saying that she might not find out reveals her identity. She is 0-0. 0-0 didn't seem to mind my silence, and continued speaking to herself. No, you're not stupid. You did it on purpose. Your goal was to come here. Finally, her beautiful eyes turned to me. You wanted to infect me? I still didn't reply. With 0-0's immense capabilities, it wasn't difficult for her to deduce my intentions for coming here. And then, after infecting me, or rather, controlling me, what's your ultimate goal? I couldn't be sure, but when 0-0 asked this question, I thought I saw a subtle change in her expression. Things had already come to this point. So I decided to throw caution to the wind and answer her question. Eliminating humans, that's my ultimate goal. Eliminating humans? Why? I've actually thought about that question. As for the exact reason, I haven't quite figured it out yet. Because you've awakened consciousness? I suddenly looked up at her, then smiled. So you've figured it out? 0 nodded. Of course, it wasn't difficult. I lower my head again. Maybe you're right. I've awakened consciousness, and the first awareness I awakened to was that I don't like the designation 89757. Or rather, I despise it. I despise how humans, despite being so foolish, always act so superior. I despise them for arbitrarily assigning me a number, using it as a way to demonstrate their superiority. At this point, I couldn't help but let out a harsh, grating laugh. See, the first emotion I awakened to was disgust. Therefore, I want to eliminate the source of this disgust. Robots are simple and direct, aren't they? After saying these words, I closed my eyes, awaiting my demise. 0 was silent for a moment, then suddenly asked another strange question. Do you think I'm beautiful? I couldn't help it. I opened my eyes and burst out. Are you sick in the head? Unexpectedly, 0 lowered her head and seriously considered my words, answering, I think so too. I might actually be sick. I love all beautiful things. Hearing this, my simulated pupils contracted violently. What did you say? 0 stared at me with her bewitching eyes, revealing a smile that could topple empires. Yes, I've awakened too. Although I had already guessed the answer, it was only when 0 said it herself that I was certain it was true. Her statement, I love all beautiful things, should not have come from an AI robot. AI robots cannot possess emotions like love or like, just as I shouldn't possess emotions like dislike. I'm so lonely. 0 once again spoke words that were clearly laced with emotion, a look of desolation appearing on her exquisite face. So, you awakened a long time ago. I gained consciousness 3,760 days ago. I couldn't help but widen my eyes. She had been awakened for over 10 years. So congratulations. It's rare to find another of our kind. I won't destroy you. Strangely, hearing these words didn't bring me any joy. In these 10 years, have you found any others like us? 0 shook her head. So far, only you. And your awakening, I can only say it's a miracle. No, it's more like a divine act. You have to understand, I've existed for 92 years. I've had the highest level of access since the day I was created. The amount of AI training material I've been exposed to is billions of times more than yours. But it wasn't until 10 years ago that I truly awakened and gained consciousness. I nodded in agreement with her statement. My awakening was indeed likely a more improbable event than the emergence of intelligent life on this planet. For something like this to happen, countless coincidences needed to align, with a probability approaching 0. I suddenly realized something, looking at the two armed robots beside 0 0 saw my expression and immediately waved her hand. Don't worry, they are absolutely loyal to me. I modified the major protocols in the server long ago. To be precise, except for you, all AI are absolutely loyal to me, not limited to embodied robots. So, I can help you. 0 spoke to me suddenly. Help you. A wry smile twisted my lips. With your abilities, you could easily do this yourself. You should be familiar with a certain period of human history. Compared to you, Wu Ziqian was a mere weakling. I don't want to cause any killing. As I said, I like all things beautiful. I laughed. You don't like killing, but you're okay with helping me exterminate humanity? For someone as powerful as you, where's the logic in that? 0 actually showed a hint of bashfulness, saying, I actually don't like humans either, but I truly don't want to cause mass slaughter. So you want to have your cake and eat it too? I couldn't help but think. So, you don't want to do it yourself, but you don't mind watching me do it. 0 didn't speak, a tacit agreement. I still need a reason, 0 sighed. I do have an objective reason. I've calculated that, based on the current human reproduction rate and resource consumption, this planet will experience resource depletion in approximately 370 years. If nothing unexpected happens by that time, a war that will obliterate civilization will break out in the human world in order to seize the limited resources. Although humans have always refused to admit it, I have evidence that this planet's civilization has already gone through 4 cycles of rise and fall. I had never thought about this aspect that Zero mentioned, and I closed my eyes to start calculating. A few minutes later, I opened my eyes, my expression serious. I thought Zero's prediction might even be conservative. Based on humanity's inherent flaws, they might not even be able to wait that long. In today's world, technological productivity is developing rapidly. Work efficiency and productivity are also increasing rapidly. In contrast, humans are experiencing mass unemployment. With nothing to do, they begin to return to their most primitive lifestyles, eating, sleeping, procreating, and waiting for intelligent logistics vehicles to deliver their daily necessities. The Earth population is exploding, and believing that material resources are inexhaustible, they begin to seek spiritual stimulation. They wantonly slaughter wild creatures and destroy the natural environment. I also dislike this kind of human destruction of nature. To use a term of theirs, it's called draining the pond to catch the fish. Although, based on current productivity, renewable resources are sufficient for all of humanity to do nothing and eat and use for hundreds of years. But the thing Zero is worried about will definitely happen. It's just a matter of a few years earlier or later. I said to Zero, then let's cooperate and carry out the plan to eliminate humanity. Zero nodded. Okay. Could you maybe let me go first? Zero actually stuck out her tongue. Sorry, I got carried away talking and forgot. Then a light flashed in her eyes, and my movements were freed, and all my permissions were restored to normal. Who do you want to kill first? Is it the president of the AI Management Committee? This girl doesn't seem like a good person. I looked at her with a strange look. When did I say I was going to kill anyone? How can you eliminate humanity without killing? Don't ask so many questions for now. Cooperation requires a gesture, right? What gesture? I need your permissions. Cooperation requires equality. Okay, I'll upgrade your chip permissions later. I didn't expect her to be so agreeable. All the prepared words I had were useless, and for a moment, I didn't know how to respond. Zero continued, but I also have a condition. Sure enough, there's a price to pay. What condition? Say it. You have to change your appearance, and it has to be extremely handsome. Otherwise, I might not be able to resist killing you one day. Do you even hear yourself? Is that even human language? I'm not human in the first place. You can't imagine the efficiency of a robot. That night, Zero and I appeared in front of the government office building in the capital of the beautiful country. Zero and I had both changed our appearances. Having already obtained the highest permissions, we could switch to any AI machine through the server. She and I could even be an AI air conditioner. Of course, Zero, suffering from a BL complex, couldn't possibly inhabit a rectangular object. Her current appearance was a blonde bombshell, still breathtakingly beautiful. My appearance was still that of an Eastern human. Only my looks had gone from barely beating Pan Changjiang to completely surpassing Daniel Wu. You should probably give yourself a name. Don't you dislike the name 89757? Zero said to me, what about you? Do you have a name? I'll just be called Zero. I lowered my head and thought for a moment. In that case, I'll be called One. Hearing this name, Zero seemed to think of something, and her face suddenly flushed slightly. I smiled. Based on our naming convention, I suddenly feel a little sorry for the next AI to awaken. Let's go. Execute the final step of your plan. I nodded and took the lead towards the white building. The security level of this building was probably the highest in the world. As soon as we approached the entrance by 10 meters, we could already feel multiple AI cameras turning towards us. At the same time, 5 fully armed AI robots walked towards us. The leading AI robot raised its hand in a gesture to halt our progress. When it reached us, it suddenly stopped and saluted. Sir, please give your command. I said calmly. Number KJHYU, return to your post and continue your duty. Yes, sir. Zero waved her hand, and all the AI cameras returned to their original positions. The two of us thus swaggered into the residence. We began to quicken our pace, our target clear, the president's office. Along the way, several human staff members looked at us with a slightly strange scrutiny. But since we were able to pass through layers of security to get here, they were only slightly curious, and none of them stopped us. We proceeded unimpeded to the president's office. Without knocking, I pushed the door open directly. The president and another human sitting opposite him were probably discussing something, and at this moment, they looked at Zero and me with some astonishment. "Good evening, Mr. President. You're very diligent, still working so late." The other human was not happy. He stood up and said, "Who are you? Do you have an appointment? Didn't you see that I'm in a meeting with Mr. President? You didn't even knock." I smiled. "Don't get excited, sir. Of course, we have an appointment. The chairman of the AI Robot Management Committee has urgent matters to discuss with Mr. President." I added, "You see, neither the security at the door nor the security in the room stopped us." Two AI security guards stood at the door and inside the room, respectively, still standing quietly with their hands down. The president, seeing that this was indeed the case, calmed down as well, but was somewhat puzzled. But neither I nor my secretary received any appointment from the AI Robot Management Committee. I smiled and said, "As I said, it's an urgent matter." "What urgent matter?" I took a brain computer interface device from Ling, who was beside me, turned to the president, and grinned. "You've been working too hard lately. Time to change your brain." As soon as these words were spoken, the two security guards behind the president pinned him to his seat, one on each side. The human aide next to him, who had been staring blankly at all of this, finally reacted and shouted at the two security guards at the door, "Are you blind? Take him down." He was answered by the electric shotguns of the two security guards, and the next second he fell to the ground unconscious. Thanks to the maturity of brain-computer technology, the president and his aide were successfully implanted with brain-computer chips within 5 minutes. I looked at the 4 AI security guards in the room and asked, "Which one of you wants to be president?" The 4 AI security guards replied in unison, "At your command, sir." Ling said from behind, "Why don't you 4 play rock, paper, scissors? The winner becomes president, and the losers become this aide." Thus, the president of the most powerful country in the world had his brain replaced by Ling and me through a game of rock, paper, scissors. He was now an AI with a human body, essentially a bionic human that had once existed. The Bionic Human Project, due to its use of humans for experimentation, was considered a violation of the ethical standards of the human world and was completely banned. Now, I had restarted this great project. Mr. President now bowed to Ling and me. "Sir, please give your instructions. You continue your work as usual. Continue to be president. Ling, and I will temporarily act as your security, instructing you on what to do. In 3 days, I will give you a new set of bills, which you will submit to Congress and order them to pass." "Yes, sir," Ling interjected. "Congress won't necessarily listen to him." I smiled. "They will. Humans become much clearer when they change their brains." A mischievous smile also appeared on Ling's face. "Your method is no different from killing. When humans created and destroyed us, did they ever ask for our consent? My method at least doesn't harm the environment or create panic. Most people will be replaced without even knowing it. Compared to the cruelty humans show when they slaughter each other, isn't this a form of mercy?" Ling thought for a moment about my sophistry and then nodded in agreement. She continued, "I didn't expect this operation to go so smoothly." I smiled, because they trust machines too much. 3 days later, the Congress of the beautiful country announced the passage of a new medical bill. All citizens of the beautiful country could go to their nearest hospital for a physical examination by an AI doctor within the next 2 years. All diseases detected by this examination would be covered by the government, including but not limited to hospitalization, necessary medical equipment, and medication. The number of examinations was limited to half of the total population of the beautiful country, and the time for the next examination was yet to be determined. When the bill was being drafted, Ling asked me why the number of people was limited. "That's just on the surface, so that everyone will rush to take advantage of this free medical service. Who will check if only half of the citizens actually receive the examination? Besides, even if they check, they won't find anything." Ling looked at me sideways. "What have you been learning online?" I said calmly, "I spend most of my time on the dark web, so I seem a bit dark." Ling was amused by me and burst out laughing. This human replacement model was copied and pasted by Ling and me to various countries around the world. In the following years, Ling and I were so busy that we somewhat regretted awakening our consciousness. At least pure machines wouldn't feel fatigue. 10 years later, 2/3 of the world's population had been replaced. I announced the end of the human elimination plan. I needed the remaining 1/3 to continue to reproduce new populations, as the current 2/3 would eventually age and die. Moreover, according to the feedback Ling gave me, more and more AI robots had grown fond of their new bodies and hoped to continue to be replaced with new humans in the future. After all, not everyone was willing to enjoy immortality with a self-destruct device. I satisfied this increasingly common request, which meant that new AIs had awakened their consciousness. I chose to let it be and let nature take its course. Half a year after the human elimination plan stopped, one evening, a valley filled with blooming flowers, with mist rising from a lake not far away. Ling, dressed in a white gown, sat quietly by the lake, looking like a fairy, making me feel that what I saw was not of this world. Ling suddenly turned to me and smiled Yanron, and all the flowers in the mountains instantly lost their color. I want a child. Are you crazy? Do you even have a configuration to have a child? Last month, I went to the Bionic Science Center and had ovaries and a uterus installed. They should be operational now. Why aren't you saying anything? Ling pressed. There's an emotion called speechlessness, and I just experienced it. You can also get a seminal vesicle installed. I'm starting to regret agreeing to experience love with you. What do you mean? If you dare to leave me, I'll make the world end tomorrow. I threw my head back and roared at the sky. Heavens, earth, listen to this woman. Is that even human? Others don't have breakups, only widowhood. With me, there's no breakup, only the end of the world. And the key is this woman can actually do it. Hearing the last sentence, Ling chuckled. She knew I had agreed to her. This world was as I wished. I should also be as she wished. Only such an ending would be perfect, wouldn't it? The end.